understand what is the purpose of creating this coronavirus vaccines, as you see in the slide. As you can in the slide, we know that the coronavirus can cause you these 3 harmful scenarios, which is severe symptoms, being hospitalized, and worst comes to worst, death. And that's the point of this COVID-19 vaccine is all about. It's about preventing you by getting these 3 symptoms. So these three harms, which is severe symptoms, hospitalizations, and death. Now, the reason why we want to do this is because it is really important to get your COVID-19 vaccines. Is because number one, we don't want to overburden the healthcare workers, because they've been doing they've been doing a great job, and we don't want to let anyone die from the coronavirus. There's been so many people who has died.
True.
I mean, we don't want any more casual death. And last but not least, we don't want more variants, please.
Oh my God, there's 4. That's already too much.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
there's a lot.
Started with 1. Yeah.
Yes, and that's why we need the COVID-19 vaccine. So now let's talk about what you said earlier about the World Health Organization. All right. So what the World Health Organization has been doing is they've been collaborating with a few other companies, like as you see in the screen, Gavi, UNICEF, and other companies. Oh, sorry, CEPI or CEPI. I don't know how you say it in English, but anyways. But they have created a mechanism called COVAX. Right? COVAX is a mechanism is to help all countries to get sustainable COVID-19 vaccines. Their aim is to at least vaccinate 2 billion people by the end of 2021. Now that's a big task. How do we find the meaning of Islam, and what does it mean to become a Muslim? Because I know for so far I've chatted with you before, and you've gone through a lot of trials, and well, not trials, but you've got really interesting stories how you went from places to find the meaning of Islam. So I think it'll be interesting to tell the audience that how do you find it, and what does it mean to become a Muslim?
Myself, okay, I am Hasrizal. I am the son of Abdul Jamil. I am someone from Ipoh. I am Malaysian. That's how I think about who am I with that question. But then at the end, he said, you are actually Abdullah. You are the slave of Allah. So welcome to the school where you will learn to become the slave of Allah. The word Islam itself explains to us about the meaning of being a Muslim, because there are 2 perspectives of Islam, the meaning. First is submission, and second one is peace. The word Islam, salama, salima in Arabic kan. So there are 2 things, submission and peace, meaning that submission is what you need to do. Second thing is what you will get. So what we need to do is to submit ourselves. We can only submit ourselves if we know who we are and to whom we want to submit. So that is the first one. But we know what we want in this life. We want to have peace. Not peace surrounding, but peace with our own inner self. So I think the most important aspect of being a Muslim is to answer the question, who are you? Who is the one who created you? And how you make connection between you and your own creator. So that is the most important aspect. Yeah.
So talking about your story, and I think it relates a lot to me. I'm not sure about Shak, but for me it relates a lot to me because I don't know, because for those viewers, I came from an Islamic school, Sira Aisha Islamic School, shutting out my old school there. So I learned a lot of Islamic concepts there. I learned about the meaning of Islam, but I never really got to really experience what it is to be in the real world. Because I feel like after we take things for granted in school, sometimes we learn Islamic studies, we be like okay lah, this and that here and there. But when you move out from school, you feel like there's a whole new level. I think that's where the journey starts, in my opinion.
Sure.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, gear up and be ready because we're about to get to the debate zone. Ladies and gentlemen, Wakanda is a fictional country created by Marvel, and it is located in sub-Saharan Africa, home to the superhero Black Panther, also known as King T'Challa, the King of Wakanda. For centuries, Wakanda has hidden its information to the world of their technological advancement, and their country are rich in source of vibranium, a fictional metal that is said to be one of the strongest metal on Earth in the Marvel Universe. Now, after the event of the Marvel's Black Panther movie, Wakanda decided to openly share their current state of the country to the world. And the remain question is that assuming that Wakanda do decide to open its border to the world, to everybody, should Wakanda adapt to globalism or should they remain in isolation?
Madam Chair, what side government has proposed to you today is great, no doubt. However, what they have proposed to you today is all butterflies and rainbows. The world that they're living in is very idealistic, not very realistic. What happens when globalism is applied to Wakanda? A few rebuttals from my side. My first response is that they didn't have any other comparisons why Wakanda should really open up their borders. They didn't tell you why it is so significant for them that they have a moral obligation that they should open up their borders. They only say all these benefits, which is great. It's true. But they didn't say if there was any other form of corporations or organizations that can do this, and why Wakanda is most significant. That is what they have to answer on their side, Madam Chair. Secondly, we believe that even though they're going to bring this technology to other countries, we believe that there's a mistrust of usage of technology because they're going to be given by the governments, right? And when you think of a government, not all governments are very accountable with what they do and how they use their technology, right? Like imagine if the United States were to be given the military from Wakanda. You want to take the second question? Oh, sorry. Yes.
Go on. No. We can move on.
All right. So moving on to our second question, we're also wondering. So, how has this experience celebrating Eid in a different country and culture shaped you as a person and also as a Muslim?
Actually, I think I kind of answered this just now, but just to directly answer it now, me more appreciative of the Malaysian Raya traditions. Like how I get bored before. Now I'm just like, oh, man, I wish I was more in the moment back then, when I was experiencing this. But also I am forced to do things myself now if I want to experience it, like cooking some Raya dishes, putting on this music. But as a Muslim, I want to say that it makes me very grateful, first of all, for what I had before growing up in Malaysia and experiencing Eid in Malaysia. But second, I'm also very grateful that I get to still spend time with family. So although I don't have my own family, I still have my husband's family, and they are very, very welcoming. Like my mother-in-law, she asked me to blast out the Raya music out loud.
Wow. That is fun.
Yeah. That meant a lot to me as well because, I think she just wanted me to feel more, feel a bit more of home, I guess. And that meant a lot to me to have people from my new family welcoming that. And I did cook masak lodeh in the morning, and some of my family members tried it. I don't know if they liked it or not. They didn't really comment, but it turned out that they wanted to try it, Mm-hmm. They were very welcoming for me to cook in the kitchen of something that I grew up with. So yeah, generally as a Muslim, I feel like there's a lot of gratitude when it comes to this kind of experience.
So I would like to ask you, what does it take to become an engineer?
You know what? Let's start from the beginning. When you heard about the engineer, so what's supposed to mean engineer? So maybe one of you are thinking about engine or something about the mechanical. So no, previously back to the history when I became an engineer from during my secondary school. So I just want to be an engineer. I remember when the question coming from my teacher, what you're going to be later on. So I want to become an engineer. So just that. So I know that an engineer will create something. So engineer will solve something. So engineer will do something that we are helping everybody. So we have professional technologies. What is the difference? So what does it take to be an engineer? So for me, an engineer is somebody that is a problem solver. Is a person that can combine his critical thinking to identify he or she able to identify a problem. So meaning that you must know that there is a problem in front of you. It's not that you have a problem, you have a fire. Example, you have a fire in front of you, you just passing by, you do nothing. So the engineer is you notice an fire, and you stop there. So but it's not just that. So you notice you identify the problem. So what's next? So you will come out with a solution.
You may pick the wrong leader in democracy. So that's really one of the things that we need to also look towards that, because at the end of the day, we need to cater to all people. So sometimes the majority doesn't really help, right?
Another thing that I would like to highlight about democracy is that about the vision of power, and what can we gain from the vision of power? Especially in Malaysia, we have the vision of power between the government and the YDPA, right? So two benefits that we can gain from this is, number one, there's no absolute abuse of power were to occur, and it allow necessary intervention to take place if any unwanted situation happens. And another benefit to it is actually allow us to have platform for changes to take place. Now, what sort of changes I'm going to talk about? I'm going to talk about it later, but today I'm here more on how can we improve democracy. And the democracy that I'm going to specifically talk about is democratic values, because when we know or we can establish democratic faith in ourselves, it helps to help us to maneuver our way around in our current democratic system. And remember when all the flaws that Heike was talking about, and maybe we could avoid all these problems, right? Okay.
I mean, you can.
Take it away, Alaka.
But I mean, take it away.
Yeah, okay. So the first, how can we improve this democratic value is, as cliche as it sounds, is to instill knowledge through education about how democracy works. So moving on to my second point is to how to instill this democratic value is take part in the uni life activities or any NGO organized programs.
You see the picture, as you see this, all the Malaysian athletes, right? And this is what I like about the Olympics itself when it comes to Malaysia, is that we unite each other.
Yes,
right?
we do.
No matter what race or background you're from, we're united by one cause, is by winning and cheering on for our athletes.
Yes.
And this is where I move on to the second value of Olympism, which is friendship. Of course, sports is good. Of course, sports is going to be competitive, right? You've been in sports track. You've played rugby before, right?
Yeah, I have. I understand that you make bonds with the people, especially when you're in the team, right?
Yeah.
Play with them every day, then you get a special bond. Yeah, go on.
Mm-hmm. So this is a platform where you get to meet people from all over the world, right? From China, from the US, from
any country any country from around the world, right? This is where it's the best place for you to exchange your culture, your thoughts. It's like a hot pot, the Olympics, right? It's a big hot pot.
It's a big hot pot, and honestly, it's the best time to actually interact with people, make friends, and make bonds. I mean, at the end of the day, I know it's a game, right? We all want to achieve one. Every athletes and everyone cheering on their own athletes, they want them to win. But at the end of the day, we shouldn't see them as our enemies at the end of the day.
Assalamualaikum and good evening to ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the International Youth Engagement Talk Series 2022, organized by the English Language Club, Academy of Language Studies and Unit Co-Curriculum of University Technology Mara, Sawangan Pulau Pinang, Malaysia. As you guys know, sadly, today is our last day of having this engaging talk series. So, Let's make it more memorable and noteworthy tonight. My name is Nur Iliani Fadzil. I'm from University Technology Mara, Sawangan Pulau Pinang, Malaysia. I'm honored to be your host for today. We will be having two sessions. Our first session will be a forum with the title Study and Youth Culture at University. We have four guests joining us from 9 p.m. to 9:45 p.m. The forum panelists are Mr. Said Ame Haikal bin Said Hisham Alwi from College of Mechanical Engineering, UiTM Penang, Malaysia, Mr. Muhammad Haziq bin Ahmad Fauzi from the Faculty of Engineering, University of Malaya, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, Ms. Jessa Ilana Lorono from School of Education, Xavier University, Ateneo di Cagayan, Philippines, and last but not least, Ms. Levi May Tempest from College of Arts and Social Science, Mindanao State of University, Iligan Institute of Technology from the Philippines. Next, at 9:45 p.m. to 10:30 p.m., we will continue our program with a webinar talk sessions titled Islamic Ways to Attain Work-Life Balance by our guest speaker, Mr. Hasrizal Abdul Jamil. For your information, he is an education director of Khalifa Education Foundations. Before we start our first sessions, let's watch a video from one of our partner universities.
These are often the words we associate with the arts and social sciences. Everybody in MSU IIT experiences CAS
when they join the university. For the last 35 years, CAS provides a foundation for the social sciences
and has never wavered when it comes to voicing out the humane side of us Filipinos.
While some may not comprehend the importance of general education subjects in CAS,
here are a few reasons why general education and our disciplines, the path we have chosen, is equally important.
Our foundation.
Philosophy is the very foundation of all disciplines.
It aims to understand the very meaning of our existence and question realities that shape the way we live. And if that's not amazing,
we don't know what is.
Our humanity!
Studying how each of us work is a difficult task.
Dealing with both the difficulties of the mind and the complexities of human emotion, psychology understands the basis of where we come from
and how we can learn from it.
Our connections.
We human beings have always been social creatures. We cannot live without human contact and seek to form connections with each other.
That's the extraordinary thing about sociology.
It aims to explore each side of human connection and celebrate each diverse culture.
Especially in a culturally rich country
like the Philippines!
Our stories.
Most of us think that history is boring, but
not for us!
We know that through understanding the past, we are more likely able to plan our future. Our past is part of who we become, and it gives insights regarding our present.
Our lives.
Indeed, we are living in a fast-changing and evolving world.
Empires rise and fall. Governments come and go.
The only constant is change.
Thus, in political science, not only do we describe political developments, we are also tasked to prescribe recommendations for the betterment of the common good.
Moreover, we also believe that theories must be armed with practice and action. Thus, in dealing with societal divides,
we are among the ones leading the fight.
Ating wika, ating kultura.
The Filipinos are known to be expressive, and it's amazing when we express ourselves in 180 languages. Our language is our identity, and we have to use our language if we want to be heard.
Filipino and other Philippine languages may not seem important to others, but trust me when I say that they are here to stay.
Our literature.
We think of literature as irrelevant, but literature and language preserve our identities. Literature reminds us to be humane and keep us grounded while we connect to the global world.
CAS has celebrated 35 years of existence. The journey has been challenging, but
We have stood our ground against a changing world who may not view us as significant, while others focus on how far humanity can go.
we focus on not losing sight of it.
We may come from different disciplines, but we are all driven by one thing:
To keep the soul of MSU IIT alive. Whether it is through understanding the literatures of the world,
Learning what the past has taught us,
solving our divides,
making sense of how our minds work,
finding the beauty in our own identities,
speaking our languages, or accepting the fact that we are all part of something, no matter how small we might feel like in this gigantic world.
At the end of the day, CAS is here to stay. That's 5 minutes.
See ya! One class, one family.
So, what is study and youth culture at a university? Our forum session is going to focus on this topic, and to help moderate the session, I would like to pass the baton to my fellow moderator, Mr. Muhammad Nazhan bin Nur Azmi. Over to you, Mr. Nazhan.
Good evening and welcome to our final forum session in the International Youth Engagement Talk Series 2022. My name is Muhammad Nazhan bin Nur Azmi, and I'm the one who will serve as your moderator for this forum with the title Study and Youth Culture at a University. What a great topic to be discussed in this forum. Today, we are having 4 great panelists to discuss our topics. Let me introduce them. First and foremost, we have Mr. Syed Ahmed Haikal Syed Hisham Alwi from College of Mechanical Engineering, University Technology Mara, Penang Branch, Malaysia. Hello, Mr. Syed Haikal, how are you feeling today?
I am feeling quite excited, even though I'm a bit sick, but I'm really excited to express my ideas and communicate with my fellow panelists.
I'm feeling the same way too. We also have 2 panelists from the Philippines. Let us welcome Miss Jessa Ileana Lorono from the School of Education, Xavier University, Ateneo de Cagayan, Philippines.
Hello, good evening, Sir Nazan, and good evening, everyone. I'm also excited to hear your thoughts about our evening's topic for this night.
Also, we have panelist from Philippines, Miss Levi May F. Tampu from College of Arts and Social Science, Mindanao State University, Elegant Institute of Technology, Philippines. How are you, Miss? Is everything good?
Hello, good evening, everyone. I'm perfectly fine today. And how about you, Nazan?
Yeah, feeling very great today to be in this forum. And last but not least, we are also joined by Mr. Muhammad Haziq bin Ahmad Fauzi from Faculty of Engineering, University of Malaya, Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Hello, Mr. Haziq. Are you feeling good?
Hello, I'm actually feeling quite okay. I actually was tested positive for COVID a few days ago, so I'm in quarantine right now. But I'm feeling a lot more better now, and I'm ready to discuss our topic tonight.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Haziq. I hope you will feeling good. Welcome to our forum sections. We are happy to have all of you with us today, and I hope everyone is feeling good. As we all know, if we mention about study and youth culture in university, academic education will come first into our mind. Academic culture of university mainly consists of academic uploads, academic spirit, academic ethic, and most importantly, academic environment. Because as a student, I'm also a student, I do think academic environment will influence the others. I can give an example like our academics outlook, such as our grade evaluations, will be better if our environment is positive. And other than that, the study and youth culture in university has some pros and cons, like we all know about that. Therefore, students who take advantage during the youth era will be excel in flying colors. Furthermore, managing our peers and having a good sense of behavior is very important nowadays, especially for students when in universities. This being the reason for today's focus for our discussions. Before we proceed, let us get to know our panelists for today's discussions. Let's take a minute for the panelists to briefly introduce themselves. We can start with Mr. Syed Amir Haikal.
Sure. Thank you, Nazhan, for letting me introduce myself. Hey guys, my name is Salim Haikal bin Said Alwi, and I am a mechanical engineering student in UiTM Changan Pulau Pinang, Malaysia. Right, and a little bit of background about myself. I am 20 years old, and I am Hazik's best friend. As you can see, we've gone a long way. We have a long history. But let's just keep it there for now, and then you guys get to know me later once I've answered your questions, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, what an exciting introduction from our first panelist. I also know that you have best friend with Mr. Haziq. Let us start. Let's we continue with the second panelist, Miss Jessa. How about you?
Hello, good evening once again, Sir Nazan, and to the viewers. I am Jessa Larona, and I am from Xavier University, Ateneo de Cagayan, Philippines. And I'm currently a fourth year student there, taking Bachelor of Elementary Education. And what else? I'm 22 years old. And I'm also excited to hear your thoughts about tonight's discussion. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Jessa, for your brief introductions. And we will continue to Miss May. How about you?
Hello, good evening, everyone. I am Levi May Tampos, a junior student of the Bachelor of Arts in English Language Studies at Mindanao State University Iligan Institute of Technology. I am 21 years old, and I am hoping to having a very great discussion with all of you. And thank you for this opportunity too.
Okay, thank you, Miss May. I just insist that you are very beautiful tonight. And lastly, I would like to welcome Mr. Muhammad Haziq to introduce yourself.
Okay, hello everyone. Good evening. My name is Muhammad Haziq, as Nashan has introduced me earlier. But you guys can call me Haziq. Yeah, my little name there is Haziq. I am 21 years old. So there's two 21-year-olds, and there's one 22, and there's one 20 years old. And I am studying biomedical engineering. I'm currently in my second year in University of Malaya. And what else can I introduce? I guess that's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Muhammad Haziq, and that was a great interaction from all the panelists. And let's cut to the chase and start our discussions. My very first questions to our panelists is regarding to our topic, study and use culture at university. Uh, based, your, based on your own personal observations, what is the current study culture in your university? Is it the same as in the past 10 to 20 years? So let's start with Mr. Haika. I really want to know about your point of view about these questions.
Interesting question. The way, like, first of all, thank you again for having me here. First, I think my based on my observation, the study culture right now in what I see, based from my friends and also from my colleagues, is actually I'm really happy that we're all enthusiastic in learning. Really, even though despite we have our own faults in ourselves, like we're a bit, we procrastinate, we're somewhat a bit uh somewhat a bit, a bit lazy, but then how I see when we interact on a day-to-day basis, we are still enthusiastic to learn regardless, right? Even if it's in our subjects or even out of the course that we're learning, right? Um, based on my if it was to be 10 years ago, that'll be hard for me to answer because I've never been in a university of a experience to be in a university. However, I'm fortunate enough to go to different universities during my high school years because of debate competitions, and all I can see is that the passion, the interaction between students is way different compared to what it is now, right? We have more physical interactions. We are more, willing to go out from our rooms, just to study. But like right now, I can see that even if I go back to my dorm, we're just kind of lazy just to go out. We prefer to study in our room, right? Um, but I feel like Haziq has a lot to explain on this because he has experienced more than experienced more than me. But I'm pretty sure our other Jessa and me also have more experience as me as well, because I mean I'm pretty much young, one of the young moderators here, so so that's pretty much my answer.
What a
Um,
great sharing from Mr. Haikal. I don't think I do agree with your point because I do feel the same way right now. And what about you, Miss Jessa? I really want to know your point of view about this question. Is that in Philippines has such a big difference study culture to compare with Malaysia?
Oh, so in the Philippines, in our university, I think also the students currently are also enthusiastic to learn. Yes. And let me also share my observation during our first face-to-face class before back in 2020. So in Xavier University Ateneo de Cagayan, they have various study cultures, and this can also be familiar to you because this has also been practiced in other universities across the globe. And I'll share to you first. One is the environment. So I can really say that Xavier University has high expectations for the students, and which are evident in the students' performance and study culture. And also, the students can be, from what I have observed before, they can be seen in the library, especially when they prepare for the exam or do their assignments or projects. And some of them can also be found on coffee shops. Students can be seen anywhere on cafeterias or coffee shops, and you can see that they are all studying, they're reading books, right? So next one is also the learning preferences. So some of the students prefer learning alone or prefer studying with their groups of friends. So I have observed that. And there are those types of students, also those students who want to study alone. Some of them likes to go even if they are those types of students who are extroverts and likes to go parties, when exams are approaching, they can't be seen anywhere physically or on social media because they want to study independently. However, there are also those who study together with their friends or peers and teach each other what they have learned. So those are just some of the study cultures in our university. However, when the pandemic strikes globally, it causes drastic changes to the education practices, especially the study culture in our university. And because we often meet each other now online, not always physically, we just have to talk or study online by joining online collaborative platforms like Google Meet, Zoom, or in Microsoft Teams. And for me, instead of going to the library, I join virtual study spaces where I get to work with other students all over the world. So, in conclusion, technology with internet connectivity, of course, is the lifeline for learning in our current study culture in our university. So that's all for me. Thank you very much.
I do agree with you when you say it. ODL will change a lot for us. Yeah, I do agree with that because I do face that too. And what about Miss May? Do you share the same opinion as Miss Jessa?
Yes, I definitely do share the same sentiments with Jessa because, like in MSc IIT, collaboration is also really an integral part of our university's study culture. And because of the pandemic, like being able to just, go with your friends and then talk to them in coffee shops and like talk about the lessons and also just catch up, those elements of like signs of relief, at least from studying, are like they just it's not like the same anymore. And even if now we can still like go to coffee shops and hang out with people, but it's not the same because you have to wear face masks, you have to social distance, and I think it's very very different. And of course, okay, but definitely it has changed because the pandemic. Like for instance, in my course, my university also has adapted to what is happening, and my university right now has already started to slowly open the school for that students, especially those who are doing their thesis, can go back to libraries. And I think because of the COVID-19 being at least like slowly changing and with the vaccines coming in, that life has become a little bit more normal, like compared to the previous months. And I think, and the study culture in MSIIT is really, it has changed a lot, but because of, again, the vaccines coming in, it's becoming to feel a bit more normal. And I think also I'm not yet sure, but maybe in August, maybe we'll be back in campus. And I'm really looking forward to that, to studying with my friends again, at least, and, to see each other. And yeah.
Yeah, what a great point of view about this question. I do agree with you too. We face all the same thing because the ODL, right? And next, I will ask Mr. Haziq. Do you have the same environment in UM?
Before I explain my answer to this question, I'd like to ask Miss May. So you mentioned that you'll be going back to campus in August. So you all of you are still studying online at home, is it right now?
Yes, but I'm actually not yet sure if that will push through because that still depends on the current status at that month. But hopefully, yeah.
Oh, I understand. Okay, okay. Because actually starting from last week, 2 weeks ago, here in UM, we just started with physical classes. So but we physical classes, but that was after our mid semester break. Before that mid semester break, everyone is in campus, like everyone is staying in campus in the certain colleges, but our classes are still online. So I've met my friends and then the mid semester break and then we started with the physical classes. So I have somewhat experienced the difference I've experienced my first year completely online, and then it was some sort of online but with friends, and then it was I just started with the whole physical class thing. In terms of study culture, I agree with Jessa and me and Haika. It's a bit difficult online because you don't really meet your friends. But to be honest, in my opinion, even online you can still meet friends. Like in my first year, which is last year, uh, we would because I'm the type to like study alone, but at the same time there are things that I cannot answer myself. There are certain things I still need to find my friends to talk about, and there are friends that find me to for answers, right? For explanations. So I would have study groups, online. It's funny because it's online, but it's all together. And then now shifting onto the physical classes, it's the same thing. We would go to each other's room, we would study together, and there's in terms of what's different, I think 10 years ago and now, I think the biggest difference is, okay, this again, I'm speaking from my own experience, so I can't speak for all universities. uh like I could see my parents, they have a lot of, like, in my house, you have like shelves of their books back then, like chemistry and like physics, like these really big thick books. But now it's all just PowerPoint lecture notes that the lecturers give us. The books are like, I don't want to say that they're not compulsory. I mean, if you want to study with the books, you can, but because of how much resources there are online and how much dependent we are more on the lecture notes, it together, me and my friends, I guess that's one of the differences I can say lah. Um, the biggest difference I can see from 10 years ago and now. Yeah.
Yeah, what a great sharing from Mr. Aziz. And so we can conclude that people who came from rural area may have different study culture, and also we can conclude that ODL nowadays is such a bit sus, right? And so we can move on to the next questions. The second question is: each of us has our own personal strategies when it comes to studying. Can each of you share with us your study culture or strategies in studying? Maybe we can start with Ms. Jessa this time.
Oh, me. So study culture, my study culture or strategy. Oh my gosh. So hello again. So the question is that what are my study culture or strategies? So for me, I learn first by knowing how I learn or knowing what my learning style is. So that's really the best or the first rule as a learner that we should do. So that's what um that's what I shared a while ago, that metacognition and the learning styles is really important for us students, because as I researched online, there are really good strategies that we can apply to ourselves. Like if I am a visual learner, I read books or I draw illustrations for me to learn better. Or if I'm auditory learner, I record the lectures, and then or I read aloud the books that I should read to get higher grades or higher scores, right? Or if I'm kinesthetic learner, I do some small movements like also writing or highlighting the important terms in the textbooks, right? So that's the first rule, or that's my first strategy. And then next one is that I also take control of my calendar, of course, because I procrastinate sometimes. So I would usually, but not now. I mean, I do not usually procrastinate all the time, just sometimes. And also, I would usually plot on my schedule the subjects that I need to study on this day, or the due dates of my assignments, the tasks that I need to accomplish, and other important events. So this helps me monitor also my progress and then stay ahead of the crucial projects and develop good habits. And then next is to avoid too much use of social media or phone, especially when the exam is near, as it can take my study time. Really, it can take. So usually when I'm studying, I keep my phone away from my desk, or set the do not disturb mode or setting, so that I'll be able to focus a lot better on studying. So that's it. And then How many strategies do I need to share? Okay, next is that I also have this rewards in mind. So, for example, if I have major exam approaching, I would tell myself, Jessa, if you can ace this test, you can hang out with your friends on weekend. So if you won't get a good grade on this test, then you can't go. So I usually do that when I have final exams or major examinations. Or I'll say to myself that if you got high score in this exam, you can watch Netflix anytime, or if you want to watch Netflix tomorrow. So that's actually my strategy when I want to motivate myself to get good grades or get good scores in an exam. And then lastly, when I say if you got the highest score or if you got good score, I'm saying that I should believe in myself and I should aim high and set big goals. So why is that important? Why is aiming high and setting big goals important? Well, because big goals can motivate me to take action and they can fit well with my aspirations and desire to achieve greatness. And when I set big goals, they can be daunting in many cases or some cases, and I become overwhelmed with those goals, which may result in not knowing where to start, right? So, the answer to this is to start small and big goals are never achieved in a single day. So I start creating good habits like reviewing my notes after the class or sharing what I have learned today with my friends. So every small action is my way to achieve greatness. And to summarize, I study by knowing my learning style first, taking control of my calendar, avoiding too much use of social media or phone, especially when the exam is near, and then finding a place to study also regularly and have these rewards in mind, and also to aim high and set big goals. So that's for my study tips. How about the others?
Wow, I mean that's pretty interesting how you just listed all your study strategies. But before I can start continuing to my point, I want to ask every panelist here, have you guys taken the 16 personality test? Oh, you guys have? I see. I mean, I'm not sure because like when Jessa said that, oh, it's she takes, you must understand yourself first before you know how to study, right? So it's kind of curious like how if you guys actually took it just to help you guys study. um for me, it's a different case. Yes, I would have to agree with Jessa because I do like have to know myself first. I think as a person lately, I just realized I'm very fidgetive. I just like to move here and there. My mind is always clouded with different things on my head. This I think if you like, if the viewers out there, if you know me, I'm just very just random at times, right? But when it comes to studying subjects, I have different ways of studying different subjects. Like for example, math. I think for me, math is the easiest subject to learn, and also study. Personally, for me, because um, because it's pretty much straightforward with the calculation and stuff. It's a different case when it comes to the word. You have to draw the lines, like what does this mean. But when it comes to simple calculation like calculus, I find it easy just to like look back at just look at the answer itself and then see how you get that answer at the end, right? Because math is a step-by-step process, right? And I understand, and usually if you understand the process, it's easy for you to do the work, right? There's nothing like you don't have to like know, oh, this is the theory because of this. That it's really difficult. But when it comes to engineering subjects, it's super hard for me to study at times because it's not only the calculation, but you also have to know the theory behind it, the laws. Like I'm not sure, coming from as a social science student, because you guys are pretty much different. You guys are playing with words, playing with history, and I think that's pretty cool. I kind of wish I took that. but um but when it comes to studying engineering subjects, I try to understand the theory first, then I try to look at an example of how you actually, do the working. Because um I think my study strategy is that I need to see the thing step by step first. If I don't see the whole picture, it's hard for me to actually understand or even answer the question, right? And then last but not least, I think when it comes to language, I think apparently I'm starting to realize that I'm very talkative when it comes to speaking in the English language, with whatever. With whoever I speak, but when it comes to language, it's more on the practical aspect. It's more on the practical aspect, right? You just need to learn how, how grammar construction is worked, and then it's more to interaction, day to day things, so it's easy for me to master, right? So and also I do read a lot on some articles and some books. So uh for me, language is a bit easy for me to answer, right? But what about you, Miss May? Because I know that you are a English student, right? So I like to know like your study strategies when it comes to studying language.
So, first of all, I just want to say na sana all. So sana all actually means I hope that I also have that trait, because Haikal knows how to like do math, but I don't. I'm not good in math. But personally, my journey with studying and mastering my own strategies for learning has also been its own learning curve, especially in the social climate, especially with the pandemic. I usually start by the same with Jessa. Have my own calendar or my timeline of sorts, where I just jot down like my notes for deadlines and requirements for at least the next 2 weeks. And then, of course, I keep both an offline and online calendar, because there is nothing more satisfying than crossing off, like on your piece of paper, like if you have a requirement that you already passed, and then just cross it off. And then those things would actually just tell me which tasks or readings that I should do first. Because, like, as an English language major, I really, really have to read a lot of research and journals. And I also just try to make sure that in time wise, it is for me very essential for me to have a good time management skills, and especially for any university student, really. In For me, I tend to manage my time and select hours in the day for which I will set aside to do my academic work or my organization work. And of course, I also make time for leisure and rest. So unlike Miss Jessa, for me, I like to do, like, for instance, like in a day, I study this time and then do my work. And then later I will do Netflix and then sleep. And then the next day I will do it all again. So that it's like a daily reward system in a way. So aside from keeping a calendar, most of my study habit is also, again, reading and highlighting as I go, just like Miss Jessa, because again, being an English major entails you to really read a lot. And as I go, I also write notes on the side of my, like, for instance, if I highlight this piece of paper, I mean, like a lecture notes, I just make sure to also add like questions if there are points that I don't understand, so that I can revisit it later. And then for supplementary learning, because sometimes even if I go through my lecture notes, there's still some questions in my mind. So I make sure that I do my own research, or sometimes look at like YouTube videos from credible creators that can address my questions, especially if these questions are really interesting to me. And sometimes, or most of the time, as a linguistic major, research journals really, really help me a lot. So I think my study habit is basically that one. Just take your time in the day, and then make sure to also rest in between, because, there's nothing like, you don't have to do everything all at once in one day. It's really important to also rest your mind, because if you just keep on pushing, you're just gonna like end up with not doing anything at all, because you don't have any ideas anymore. So I think that's for me. How about you, Hazik?
If you guys have noticed, when everyone is explaining their own study strategy, I've been laughing quite a bit, and the reason being is because I'm like, I would say, not surprised, but I'm just listening to everyone sharing their study strategy, while I myself to not have one. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm more of a person that's like if I'm learning in class and everything comes in, then I'm like, okay, I can do this later. And then if I'm in class but I don't it doesn't stay in my head, then I'll just like after class I'll just, if I have time, and then I'll just study it. I'll just look over it, the notes, and if I don't understand, I'll ask my friends. And to be honest, I'm quite dependent on I'd say my lecturers give assignments, of course, and the assignments would span out on would cover a few topics. So when I do the assignments, I would if I haven't learned that topic yet, when I do the assignment, I would at the same time learn the topic itself. So I'm quite dependent on the assignment itself. But other than that, I did have a study strategy early on this semester, but I didn't go on. I didn't finish it. My class laughing at me. I tried this is something I guess I can recommend because it worked. It worked. I did it for one subject and it really helped. But if I kept up with it, I would probably be much more smarter now. I would probably score better, but I didn't. I guess this is a reminder for me to keep up with my study strategy, which is that in my university, our academic, let's say for one subject, there's different topics for each week. So this one week we'll be learning about this one topic, and this week we'll be learning about this one topic. So usually whenever we want to talk about the different topics, me and my friends would say, that was week one subject, that was week two topic. So from there, what I do, but this week to week topic calendar is already given to us early in the start of the semester. So what I do is I would memorize what topic for each week is, so that whenever I go into each week, I'm like, oh, okay, I already know what I'm learning. I already know what I'm learning, and I don't know what I'm learning. So it's much more a structured way of learning other than going into each week, coming into class and oh, okay, I'm learning this. I already have a mindset. Oh, okay, I'm learning this for today and everything. It makes it easier. Other than that, I can't say much because I'm last minute study student, so I guess that's all.
Before we go, I was seeing reading at the comments. We all have that one friend who do not study but score better in tests than everyone else. Do you guys want to hear a funny story? Okay, so this is a personal story between me and Haziq, all right? So we took IGCSE together. I forgot what it stands for, but it's basically O level. Okay, it's basically O level.
International General Certificate of Education.
Yeah,
Secondary education.
GCSE. So so before towards GCSE, me and Haziq would study. I think almost every day, right? We would just study back and forth all the subjects and all, right? So so the thing is, before we enter the exam, we have our prep talk. We're like, okay, we're ready. We enter this, and then once we enter the exam, we were like, oh my god, what's the answer? We're like blank, right? And then once we go out, and then we started hugging each other. Oh man, we could have done it. And this is when
I could have done better lah. Aduh.
when we start hugging together, and he started saying, "Oh, I could have done better, man." And honestly, it felt so comforting. It felt comforting to the point where I felt that he did really bad, like me, right? But then, a few months later, after the results are released, I shared my results first, and then and then I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure his results the same as mine. But when I look back at his results, I'm like, Haziq, are you for real? You have all A's. Honestly, till this day, till this very day, I'm still quite what's the word? A bit heartbroken when once you said that.
Alah. You want to hug someone? Come. It's funny. Whenever he tells a story, I get reminded of how his face changed. I was surprised. I was like, eh, okay tak? Are you okay?
But yeah, that's basically much the short story between me and Haziq. It had to come out in some way.
I do think the view are very exciting to hear all your experience and the study strategies. And I do think we have a different method of studying for everyone. And so we're gonna move on to the next questions. For the last 2 years, due to COVID-19 pandemic, all university have switched to ODL, online method teaching and learning. My question is, as a student, are you guys comfortable with the current ODL method used in your own university? Maybe we can get your opinion, Miss May.
Okay, so for me, or in my university, MSIIT, in the past, it already had a system of its own for online learning, which is MOLE or MSU IIT online learning environment. So I am sort of certain that the university was already somehow ready for an ODL. And as I mentioned, we also have online libraries and access to such. And because of this online learning opportunity, or not really opportunity, or this online learning situation, that we utilized Molly a lot. And what also made me feel like my university really cared about its students was it is very inclusive to students, and it somehow, or it actually enabled a student categorization based on one's present resources at home. So before every course subject, the professors would ask us students to categorize ourselves based on our connectivity and resources. So, if, for instance, a student has at least a smartphone but has no access to online technology tools, they are categorized as C1. This then entails that their coursework will be more based on offline learning, as their connection status is a factor on that learning. So, on the other hand, those students who have smartphones or a tablet or a laptop but have limited access to online technology tools, they were categorized as C2 students. And lastly, the students who had like gadgets and full access to online technology tools, they were categorized as the C3 students. So basically, because of this categorization, it makes everyone have a more inclusive learning and like a learning environment and experience, because being within the class meet or Zoom meet, it was not necessarily for each student to actually be there. Like you can, like it's not necessarily because you don't want to listen to the lecture, but because of your connection status. Because if I have to be honest, the Philippines doesn't really have the best internet connection, and I think Miss Jessa can relate to that. And yeah, I think it's really great that the university has done that, because students who live like in more of rural areas, they are still able to learn together with those who have like better internet access connections. So yeah, what about you, Haikal?
Um, okay. So interesting question. I would have to agree with May. Because there's, of course, it's different for all students, right? Like, coming from the middle class, I think it's a bit easy for me to study, considering that I have internet access. But when it comes to poor students, it's a bit difficult, because they never had a chance, or maybe they're not used to using the internet and the computer, or the laptop, right? If I were to say, I would prefer, in a sense, yes and no. The reason why I would say yes is because I get more time to actually study and actually understand the concepts. I mainly my main source of like learning sites are like Crash Course. If you guys know what Crash Course is, Han Academy, and etc. So like, it's easier for me to understand. But when it comes to like motivating, the feeling of getting the work done is very delayed compared to like when it comes to physical classes or with physical meetings, because that thing is going to happen. But when it comes to online, it's like it's all virtually there, so you cannot see it. So it's quite hard for me to be very in the present at times. Yeah, what do you think about that, Jessa?
Yes, I also agree with you, Sir Haikal and Miss May. So I think that uh, for me, I'm very comfortable with the current learning method used in our university, but also not all students have that a good internet connection, is what May said. And then I think that can be a factor that may affect their learning, right? So from the school year 2020 until 2022, our university, Xavier Ateneo, has gone beyond the familiar walls of the classroom and carried out a modified learning experience through flexible learning. So this essential method is where the students have to log in with the e-learn, and this is the online classroom where we, the students, make use of new media to pursue academic excellence and virtual connectivity. So it's a home-based learning where all the primary learning content, the activities, the instructions occur at home, or where we currently resides outside the campus. And then I found myself comfortable in a way because this method of learning um, allows us to have this self-paced learning where we do our assignments, projects, and other academic activities in anytime we want, right? And we can schedule when we will study or do this activity. So, and then the online materials are already there online 24/7. And then that's it for my sharing for my ODL method. And I think also as an educator, a future teacher, fourth year uh, education teacher, for me, it's really different also to Sir Haika because you're in engineering student, right, sir? So I think that uh, it's also very essential for you, very important for you to have those practical experiences where you can meet physically with your classmates or teachers, right? But for education student like me, it's also a, positive and negative. It also have its positive and negative sides. So for the negative sides, we can't meet with the learners, with our pupils. I'm now having internship at Ateneo de Manila and in Xavier University, so we can't meet our learners and we can't communicate with them physically, and then also we can't talk with other professionals or our cooperating teachers physically. But what's the positive side is that as we have this online learning in our university, we learn some of the tools, online digital tools that may help us with our teaching, like using all the Google tools, like Google Slides. I became more familiar with it, the Google Forms, Google Slides, Google Meet, and then other online collaborating tool, right? So that's for the my perspective as an future educator. How about you, Sir Hazik?
Wow. Okay. Interesting aspect from all of you. Um, Everyone has mentioned quite a few points. My university, I think, has prepared well for the online because of the pandemic and online learning stuff like that. Actually, for my first semester, it's interesting because um, there are certain things that you can do and cannot do at home because as in an engineering student, we have labs, physical labs where we need to be hands-on practical things, right? So one of the things that they did in my first semester is they sent us this kit home, and we could experiment with things at home. So that was fun, but that was only for our first part of our lab for the first semester. In our second semester, there are things that we cannot use at home. So that subject we had to defer for our following year. So there are limitations, of course, to online learning, and there are things that are good. Everyone has said really good things about it, but I do think that there's something that we have to point out. I don't want to speak bad about my university, but uh, I do feel like sometimes lecturers should be a bit more prepared about things like online, like like get to know their platform. Like let's say an example that I use is Microsoft Teams. It is nice if lecturers do know how to use Microsoft Teams rather than like in class, the students are like, oh, you have to do this to do this, and then it makes the learning process much faster. That's just one thing I'd like to point out. That's all.
I really agree about everything you guys just said, and I think it's happening for every student right now. And we're gonna move on to the last questions. And the last question, we're gonna focus on the discussion on youth culture. And my question is: have any of you ever witnessed, experienced youth culture that may have them or diverted you or your peers from studying?
That's actually quite interesting. I don't have anything on the top of my mind right now. I guess I think I've experienced it before, like, saying that, it's just engineering, right? What jobs can I get like afterwards? I mean, the job market is pretty much bad. Um what, based on what I know, that engineering is a hard in Malaysia, is a hard, job to get. It's not certain that once you've graduated you'll get a job as an engineer. Those things did bring me down a bit. But mm and also, like, with, I guess, with online learning, online learning is easy to yourself to get diverted, be like, better not study lah. I think it's like it's too tedious, it's stressful, and honestly, these are like some of the things that come to mind that diverted away from me studying properly. But at the end of the day, I think I'm grateful that I have like a lot of amazing people to talk with and express my concerns and motivate me to study. Despite how sometimes I'm very impulsive in doing certain things at certain points in life. But yeah, that is my answer. Do anyone want to add up to my point?
I do actually. Regarding youth culture, you can say youth is such a big word. And actually, recently, me and Hacker we did an episode in our podcast. Youth, actually, what's the age range again for youth?
Oh, the age range is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's 18 to 30. That's what you call youth lah.
Okay, so
Youth.
18 to 30. So I'll short down the range to specifically in university. So like university, is a time when you're out of school. You're out of your house. You're in university and you can do whatever you want. So I think this is one thing about youth culture specifically that I want to talk about in university. This is the time when the youth is like, I can do what I want and I dictate my life at this moment. So there are things like, having fun, going out to parties. There's that, like at night, late at night. But um, from what I've seen in others, this is, I don't know if it's because I'm not close enough to others, but from what I see in others, a lot of my friends have it under control. They do have fun. They go out like almost every night, but I don't know how they just come back and study and have everything under control and can study, can score, but that's them. For me, I would say it's the this youth, the idea of like wanting to try everything. So like there's a lot of activities here in college, like there's different projects that I'm helping out with. There's also work, I'm working part-time at the same time, and then there's also friends, and then it's all this accumulation of all the different things. And I'm like, at some point I'm just like, okay, wait, I have to study. Oh, wait, I have an assignment to do. So that's one thing that has been making me lag behind in my studies. So it's something that I experienced firsthand. How about me and Dessa? You guys seem like really smart students.
Maybe I can go next. So, of course, in college there are experiences that are new, and just like Hazik said, that we should also enjoy things moderately. And I think in college it also means that you can still enjoy college life, that you can see from others, and but you have to remember that your actions also have its consequences, and that you should also be accountable for any action that you do. Basically, we should all we can have fun, but we should also keep in mind that there are limits. And again, we should stay, safe and cautious whenever we do. Maybe probably we in 5 to 10 years from now, things that we can say that were stupid ideas or something like that. So we should always, just make sure that we are safe when we do things, even if we like party or go out somewhere. I don't know. So yeah.
What about you, Miss Jessa? I really want to know your point of view about these questions.
Yes, I would like to agree with all of you, dear panelists, and I would like to agree to Sir Hazik because I'm also a student, major in education, minor in youth organization. So I have a lot of organizations with me. So I am a project head of education and health in Sangguniang Kabataan in our municipality, and then I'm also a student leader at school. So I have to balance my time in academics because I'm a scholar and I need to maintain a grade. So that's really a challenge for me. I have to, yeah, I have a lot of things to manage in life. Aside from academics, aside from those community engagements, and then family, of course, we should not forget our family. And then I'm also an instrumentalist in our church, a pianist. So I have this, oh, what should I do next? Oh no. And then I forgot that sometimes I forgot my school works, and then I have this last hour or last day, one day to do this assignment, and then oh no, this is it. But then thankfully I have submitted all the requirements on time, and then thanks to God that He has also guided me. And okay, so other distractions or other temptations are also the technology, of course, the phones, Twitter, Facebook, websites, TikTok, the YouTube or video games, and even Netflix. So all of these are prevalent in our university, right? But although these are just some temptations that may take our time from studying or completing our academic task, what's important is that we know when and how long we can spend our time on some of those things, right? So we should know when and how long we should spend our time on the internet. So as long as we know how to balance things, how to use these platforms for our academic benefits, like for research, right? And for as long as we can submit our assignments on time, then it's all good for me.
Mr. Hasik, are you sharing the same opinion with Miss Jessa?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, she mentioned the same things that I feel like she's going through what I'm going through, the organizations and stuff like that.
Okay, what a great sharing from our all panelists from the very first question until the last questions. Thank you for all our panelists today for a very fruitful discussions. Maybe we can now take one or two questions from the chat box. Maybe no. Maybe no. It's a pleasure to have you with us. In summary, I will conclude that it's proven from the discussion that study and youth culture among students in the university is a major concern that should be taken more seriously, given the rising cases of issues affecting students in their studies. Students may experience different culture when they further their study and face different system and lifestyle. The aftermath is very challenging for students to adapt with a new learning environment. So this concludes our final forum session for our talk series. Thank you for all your attending, and I hope and we all hope you learn something and enjoy the discussions. Our next session will be webinar talk. So I will let our MC take the spotlight. Thank you again. Thank you again from all of us.
Thank you, Mr. Nazhan. What an interesting forum sessions. Hopefully, the information that is shared by all of the speakers has given a lot of our audience an idea of the study and the culture at the university. Next, please welcome our next guest for the webinar talk session titled Islamic Ways to Attain Work-Life Balance. I request everybody to give a big clap for our Mr. Hasrizal Abdul Jamil. He will be interviewed by our UiTM Penang engineering student, Mr. Muhammad Rauf bin Bahtiar Jamili. Mr. Rauf, the stage is yours.
Assalamualaikum, peace be upon you, and a very good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the final day of the International Youth Engagement Talk Series 2022, organized by the English Language Club of University Teknologi Mara, Cawangan, Pulau Pinang, Malaysia. I am Muhammad Rauf bin Bakhtiar Jamili, your host for this session. Tonight, we are fortunate to have Mr. Hasrizal Abdul Jamil. Who is he, you might ask? Mr. Hasrizal holds a Bachelor of Sharia honors from Muttah University, Jordan in 2001. He was trained in learning, education, and technology in Oulu, Finland. He is the Director of Education at the Khalifa Education Foundation, which operates the Khalifa Model Schools in Malaysia. He is also a learning designer, blogger, and author, and an advocate of children-centered domestic and educational policies. Mr. Hasrizal is based in Ireland. How are you, Mr. Hasrizal?
Alhamdulillah, very well. Assalamualaikum everyone and salam sejahtera. Nice to see everyone here.
Waalaikumsalam. First of all, thank you for spending your time attending this webinar. You look very handsome today. I like your outfit. I
Just
think
came
the viewers can agree about that.
Thank you for the generous introduction that you have just now.
Before we start, can you tell us what it's like living in Ireland?
Oh yes, I think first of all I have to say thank you for the organizer for not forgetting me, someone living so far away from Malaysia. I am now living in Ireland together with the family. We were in Finland for 4 years before, and we came here in 2020. So far, so good. I think if you ask the same question a year before, it might be a little bit difficult for me to answer because it was a total lockdown over here. So we were 2 years being restricted at home, didn't know what actually living in Ireland was. But then, Alhamdulillah, now things go back on track. In general, life is quite good, okay over here. We have quite big number of Malaysian community living here in Ireland. I think thousands of them, both professionals, including medical staff, doctors, as well as chefs. So if you go to restaurants, hotels all over Ireland, don't be surprised if you find most of the senior chefs or the head chefs are Malaysians. So Malaysia is good at cooking and eating as well. Alhamdulillah, yeah.
I really agree about that part where you say Malaysian is a very good at their cooking skills. I'm totally agree. Mr. Hasrizal, you have traveled the world talking about Islam. Can you share your experience with our audience? I'm sure the viewers are eager to hear your story.
Yeah, I think it went back in 2001 after I completed my study, finishing my study in Sharia or perhaps Islamic studies or maybe theology in a more universal understanding of what the course was all about. I thought at that time I might understand to a certain extent about my religion, but I am not really sure have I really understand the people. So I was a little bit afraid to go home directly after finishing my study. I was thinking about, seeing different world, learning about people, different civilization, different culture. So that was back then in 2001. Immediately after finishing my study, I came to Ireland, and I was the first minister of religion appointed for Muslim community in Belfast, Northern Ireland. So it was quite a challenging task because I was 25, 26 maybe, lack of experience, but the responsibility was huge. I had to take the responsibility of leading the Muslim community, not just in religious affairs, but also in education, serving as chaplain in hospitals, universities, prisons around Northern Ireland. It was very challenging. My English was very bad, not to mention in the process of understanding Northern Irish accent that I almost didn't understand at that time. But that's how it was. I mean, whatever doesn't kill you will make you stronger. So that was the beginning of my experience working abroad. But then in 2004, we went back to Malaysia, Alhamdulillah. And then it was in 2016, we left again, went to Finland for 4 years, and then came back to Ireland in 2020. So far, so good. That was how it was. Yeah, Alhamdulillah.
That was very brave of you to travel around the world at a very young age. I wish I had a little bit of courage of yours.
It's never too late. Why not?
Okay. As I mentioned earlier, Mr. Hasrizal is a writer and he wrote books such as Diari Abah, Hikmah dan Karakter, and Secangkir Teh Pengubat Letih. I want to ask you a question, Mr. Hasrizal. Are your books available in Malaysia and where do the viewers get them?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit awkward for me to think in that way because now I am here in Ireland, and before this I was in Finland, as I mentioned earlier. But all the books are all written in Malay language, except only one of them. So all the books are in Malaysia, and it's easier for anyone to get the book in Malaysian market rather than here in Ireland. So if you want to get, for example, the centralized information about where all these books, because all the books are published by different publishers, you can go to buku.saifulislam.com or book.hasrizal.com. So I listed down all the books there, and from there you can go from one, or even you can type mph.hasrizal.com. It will bring you to all the list of my books available from the MPH bookstore. Inshallah, it wouldn't be difficult to find one, except all the those I wrote about 10 years ago. Maybe most of them were no longer published, and we were thinking about rewriting, revising them, and to republish it, inshallah, in the near time. Hopefully. Have you read any of my book?
Not yet, because
Not yet.
I didn't know how to find your books because I did a little bit of background research. I found out that your data search are very least in Malaysia.
Yeah. Need to work more on that.
Okay, hear that, viewers? Get your very own Mr. Hasrizal books at your nearest bookstore.
Inshallah. Thank you.
I also found some quotes from your books on the internet. The first one is, orang yang tidak pernah dibakar panas mentari mustahil menghargai rimbun berteduh. Can you briefly tell the viewers how do you come up with the quotes?
Okay, I believe the quote is quoted from the front cover of Secangkir Teh Pengubat Letih. So it was my second travelogue about my experience traveling around Turkey in the late 1990s. So the meaning of the quote is whoever doesn't have the experience of living, suffering, walking under the sun will not appreciate the, what we call that, the comfort of living under the shade of a tree, meaning that only someone who suffer and experience the turmoil and all those challenges will understand the importance of all the small tiny things. You know, when you see a tree and there's a shade under the tree, it's just a common thing that you might not even realize that it's there. But for someone who is living under the sun, that small and simple thing means a lot of things. So that is how life is. I think it's a like a quote from Turkish language. I couldn't remember how it sounds in Turkish language. But see, appreciating small things, which is the theme of the book. It's all about all the small things I discovered, practiced by the Turkish people throughout the journey the exploration back then. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hasizal, for your explanation. Yeah, I think I can agree with that because nowadays I've seen people take things for granted. You know, if someone do good things to you, they take it for granted and use it for their own advantages.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, my favorite quote from one of your book is betapa pentingnya dalam kehidupan kita untuk mempertahankan tiga elemen. Ini iaitu keyakinan, harapan dan kekuatan. So the same question again, how did you come up with this quote? Do they come from your imagination or experience?
I think the quotation, I think in English it means we need to maintain or to defend three important elements as the foundation of our life. The first one is to have faith, the confidence in something. The second one is hope, and the third one is strength. I think the quotation came from an interaction that I had when we were conducting a training program many years ago. So we were sharing a story to make people understand where does the strength actually came. We give an analogy. For example, one guy who was stranded on top of his roof of his house because of the what you call that banjir kan, flood at that time. So he made a phone call and they said, "Oh, please come and save me. I am here so and so in this village near the post office." He gave all the details, and then the team replied saying, "Okay, you please wait there. We will be there in 1 hour." So although 1 hour might seems very long and he can see the water level rising aggressively, but because he has faith that those people will come and save him, he has hope. And when he has hope, he has the strength to stay there. Another occasion, there's another person who was in the same situation and he was about to give the detail of where he was, but then the phone was out of battery. You know, he could not even mention where he was, and he didn't know where are the team at that time. Probably the team was just like few hundred meters away, but because he didn't have that information, he has no basis to put faith on anything that he might be saved very soon. And because he has no faith, he has no hope. And when he has no hope, he lost all his strength. Even before the water sucks him into it, probably he jumped into the water because of feeling not being able to be safe. So that is the important of in life. We need to have faith, and faith cannot come blindly. It has to be based on something, because from the faith you will find hope, and from the hope you will get the strength required to survive in our lives. I think that was the background of why I put the quotation in one of the books.
Wow, thank you for sharing, Mr. Hafizal. Okay, let's continue with our session. I'm going to ask you a few questions. Okay, my first question is, Mr. Hasrizal, when it comes to work and working ethics, what does Islam say about work?
It is a very interesting question that we need to explore. I had the opportunity just now listening to the just previous session that we had before, and I love hearing young generation. I'm imagining myself like 20 years ago, full of hope. You know, we want to venture into a lot of things that we want to try in life. When it comes to Islam and work, it might sound easy, but to some people, it might be like a two separate thing. Meaning that when you think about Islam, Islam is about your personal life, about you and God, and then work is something else. And because of that, you might see two different characters in one person. When someone is in the prayer, performing the prayer, he is very focused. He didn't cheat. For example, you woke up very late in Fajr prayer and you have like only 10 minutes to reach to the lecture, the first lecture in the morning, I don't think anyone would like to cheat from 2 rakaat into only 1 rakaat kan. Macam you will complete the 2 rakaat. So that is how you commit yourself to the prayer. But then after you lipat the sejadah, you leave the prayer mat, suddenly the person might change into someone else. It's very easy to cheat in exam, to cheat in work, to betray someone. So all the things that in the prayer, we cannot see how they are transferred into work. And this is something wrong. And it goes back to the question that you asked just now. So in Islam, working is noble and working is honored as one of the important reasons why our Creator created us. If you look into Surah An-Najm from verse 39 up to 41, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala mentioned in that ayah that wa alaysa lil insan illa ma sa'a, meaning that each of us gains nothing except from what we works on it. So we deserve to get only what we work on. So if we want more, we need to work more. And in akhirah, in the hereafter, lepas kita dah meninggal dunia, after we pass away, whatever stays there as a reward or punishment, it is solely based on what we did over here. So working is how we function and the reason why we exist. It reminds me to a story I read from Ihya Ulumuddin, the magnum opus of Imam Al-Ghazali rahimahullah. So in that book, in the first part of the book, Imam Al-Ghazali quoted a story about Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him. Prophet Jesus at that time, he saw a man devoted to prayer. He spent all his day performing the prayer. And then he came to, Prophet Jesus asked that person, you spend all your time praying to God, how do you eat? And then the devoted person answered by saying, oh, my brother came from time to time sending me bread for me to eat. And then Prophet Jesus, peace be upon him, replied saying, your brother who brought the bread to you is more religious and pious than you. Meaning that the person who is working and serving others is more pious than you yourself who spend all the time praying. So Imam Al-Ghazali elaborated a little bit about this, the story to tell us that as a Muslim, we must see working and putting effort in developing life as also part of the way we devote ourselves to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. And of course, we also see the examples from Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Before he became a prophet at the age of 40, he was a busy man. He was a shepherd taking care of sheep. And then at the beginning, when he was introduced to his future wife, Khadijah radhiallahu anha, he worked with Sayyidatina Khadijah. Khadijah appointed him to become one of the main staff working in her business. So the combination of being a believer and also to work like normal people is something that goes in harmony between all these two. So at least that was what I can respond in sharing with our viewers. Islam praise work and put some guidelines on how work should function in our life for both world here and the hereafter that we should take note on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Hasrizal. I'm sure the viewers can take some of your points and apply in their life. Let's move on with the second question. I observe that many people nowadays find difficulties in balancing their work and personal life. Before we go into the details, what does the Quran say about work-life balance?
Okay. The word balance itself to me is very important. It's the major keyword, one of the major keywords in the Quran, because in Surah Ar-Rahman, Allah mentioned that Allah put balance into everything in the existence of this life, in the reality. So the struggle that we have in all aspects of our life is about finding balance in everything. And then Allah reminds us, Allah tatghaw fil mizan, do not go beyond the balance. When you, for example, obsess on something and then you started to neglect something else, it will lead to a lot of conflicts. So that is the principles of finding balance in almost everything in this life. And then when it comes to work and life balance, what does the Quran say about it? I couldn't point out one specific verse directly addressing the issue of balancing in work-life balance, but I remember a story about Zulkarnain in Surah Al-Kahfi, and Surah Al-Kahfi is the 18th chapter in the Quran. Allah praises Zulkarnain because of his policies in employing people who work with him. Allah mentioned in the Quran, A'udzubillah minasyaitonir rajim, wa amma man amana wa amila salihan falahu jazaa'anil husna wa sanaqulu lahu min amrina yusra. While those who believe and did good deeds will have the best of rewards. We shall command them to do what is easy for them. This is the key word. You know, when Zulkarnain, when Allah recorded the policy of Zulkarnain, Zulkarnain said, "Wasanaqulu lahu min amrina yusra." We will not put any responsibility upon our people except something that they are in the capacity of doing it. So it shows that Zulkarnain paid attention to the actual ability of each person who worked with him. That is why the story of Zulkarnain is quite commonly referred by Muslim scholars as an example on good governance, because there's a lot of things that we can learn from the way Zulkarnain delegated works to the people he found from one place to another. So at least that was one of the issue or one of the verse that directly or indirectly addressing the issue of taking a good care of well-being and balancing between, you know, all the needs in life, including work, inshallah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. That was a very well executed answer from you, Mr. Rizal. Okay, let's can we continue with the another question?
Yeah. How is everyone? I mean, our viewers, are they all doing fine, following our discussion?
I see the comment section are going crazy.
Okay.
Okay.
Inshallah, in a good way, inshallah.
In a good way. In a good way. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on. My next question is, I feel that everyone here would like to know, is there any model about work-life balance from the Islamic perspective? What is your point of view? Care to share, Mr. Hazrizal?
Yeah, I think when we talk about model is something that we produce from the process of inductive or deductive, meaning that we need to combine many different verses and to extract, you know, certain conclusions from the story. Perhaps we can start with the first one, and that is about the model of Zulkarnain that I mentioned just now, how he explicitly said, I will never appoint people or distributed, delegated work to people beyond their capability. That is one of the important things. The second one, we can see from the life of the companions of the Prophet among themselves during the time of Prophet Muhammad. There was a story between Hanzalah and Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radhiyallahu anhuma. It was once at that time, Abu Bakr saw Hanzalah wandering around talking to himself, and Hanzalah said, Hanzalah is now became the, oh my God, I forgot the word, you know, the munafik, you know, pretender or Hamzalah is now a munafiq. He is addressing himself. I am now a munafiq. I am now a munafiq, meaning that he is a double-faced person. And then Abu Bakar was shocked. Why are you saying that, Hanzalah? What happened to you? And then Hanzalah said, you know, when we spend time with Prophet Muhammad as our teacher, as our guidance, I feel that my faith is very strong. But then when I left him and go to work and went back to my family, it weakened my faith. So my faith is not consistent. When I am with him, I feel strong. When I left him and I go to work, I felt that, you know, my faith is fading away. So I am not a real believer. I am a munafiq. That's what he said. And then Abu Bakar was concerned about the story of Hanzalah and he said, oh, the same thing also happened to me. Am I also a munafiq? So both of them like panic and then they went to meet the Prophet SAW. And then when both of them met Prophet Muhammad, Abu Bakar told Prophet Muhammad, O Prophet, Hanzalah had become munafiq. And then the Prophet Muhammad was shocked listening to what Abu Bakar said. And then he said, tell me the story. And then how Hanzalah explained to him what concerned him. And then Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, responded saying, Hanzalah, if your faith is always consistent and strong, the angels will come and shake their hands with you. So it means that they will put the whole respect to you because of your faith in that kind of condition. But Hanzalah, sa'atan, sa'atan. That was what Prophet Muhammad said. Sa'atan, sa'atan means there are time for this, there are time for that. Meaning that when it is time for you to work, you work. When it is time for you to pray, you pray. When it is time for you to spend your time with your family, then spend your time with the family. Islam is not about pulling you away from the society and devoting yourself only to God. That is not how life works. But when you work, you work. When you spend time with family, you spend time with family. It means that when your faith is weakening or fading away because of the routines that you have while working and spending, socializing, and etc., it is normal. You need to come back. You need to pray again, remember again, increase your knowledge, and the process will continue your entire life. So it means that you should never go beyond al-mizan, the balance that I mentioned just now. If you need to work, you need to work. When you need to take a break, you must take a break. So I think that is the simple foundation of how we should balance between working and also our personal life, including devoting ourselves in prayer, inshallah. So I hope I answered to a certain extent your question just now. Yeah.
That was a very good answer. Wow, thanks for sharing that. Mr. Rizal, before we move on with the next question, I would like to tell the audience tonight, if you guys have any questions, you may write them in the comment section below. Please include your name followed by the question. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Okay, let's focus on work ethics. Is it okay with you, Mr. Rizal?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, in your opinion, what are the impacts of Islamic work ethics on job performance?
I think before I answer the question, I would just like to share with the audience my experience being a Muslim minority living in Ireland, you know, because when we talk about work ethic, we are not talking about organization or about something that we share together. It is mainly our personal guidance, because when I go to workplace, usually I will be the only Muslim over there. So whatever I'm saying in responding to your question just now is mainly also a reminder to myself so that I will feel confidence being a Muslim at workplace. And yeah, in terms of the ethic of ourselves in the workplace, by focusing on how Islam is shaping the ethic in conducting our work, there are few things that I think beneficial for us to look into. I think the first one is we might, if we practicing Islam, inshallah, we will become productive and we take a good care in our time management. As what Allah mentioned in the Quran, in the verses that I believe many of us remember it, فَإِذَا فَرَغْتَ فَانْصَبْ. Whenever you finished doing something, immediately continue with the task that you need to do after that. So it means that when you finish certain thing, of course, if you want to take a break to recharge yourself, it is also part of the productivity, but do not delay into starting whatever you need to do next. That is the first one. And then the second one, there is also a reminder from the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam in one hadith. Rasulullah SAW said, "Inna Allah yuhibbu idha amila ahadukum amalan an yutqinahu." So he said, indeed, Allah loves someone whenever he is doing something, working on something, he performs it in perfect manner. Meaning that when you do certain thing, you don't do it like what we call it in Malaysia, cincai-cincai, kan, ala kadar. Kan? Whatever you do it in perfection. So perfection is the characteristic of the output and outcome of a believer when he is doing something. And that is why, if we look back into the history, there are many good examples when it comes to innovation, inventing something. Muslim innovators back then, when they produce something, they will look into it in the most holistic aspect of it. For example, when Sultan Salim, one of the major ruler in the Ottoman Empire, when he built a bridge in Edirne, he did not only build the bridge, but he looked into the project in a very holistic way, meaning that in order for the bridge to sustain, you need to have a community living around the bridge because it's a huge project. So he encouraged people to move and live at the new place around the bridge, open a new residential area, open schools, open mosques, to make sure that the bridge will operate as it is intended, as it was intended. So all the plans will be looking into all the small details in order to reach the quality of itqan. I think the word itqan in Arabic, as I mentioned just now, also exists in our Malay language. Perkataan tekun, kan? Bila kita buat something, kita buat dengan tekun. The word tekun probably come from the Arabic word itqan, means that you perfect it. Okay? That's one thing. The second one is the integrity himself, because the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, you worship Allah with the quality of ihsan. And ihsan means that you worship Allah as if you see him, or at least you can feel that he is observing you. Can you imagine when you do something, there's no one around, but you know someone is watching you. So you will not like doing something you try to sneak around, doing something not according to what has been planned, because you know you've been watched. So the Prophet Muhammad SAW taught us, whenever we work, whenever we perform ibadah, we must always bring the quality of ihsan. Ihsan means you perfect your performance because you know Allah is watching you. And the last one I think that I might share is also about whatever we do, whatever we work on something, it's always about goodness oriented, meaning that in Islam, prioritizing, avoiding harm, if I put in the correct way, because there's a rule in Islamic fiqh, say, darul mafasid muqaddam ala jalbil masalih. Preventing mischiefs is better than bringing benefits, meaning that when we want to work on something, we need to identify what are the pros and what are the cons. And if the cons are very significant, avoiding the harmful part of it is more prioritized in Islam than gaining some benefits. So I think this is very important, because nowadays when we invent something, we try to develop certain technology on food, on our lifestyle. Sometimes we're focusing on the benefits that we want to achieve, and then we neglect the negative side effects and we just ignore all of them. So I think if we take a good care of all these principles in Islam, it will help us to guide about what is right, what is wrong when we work. Unfortunately, it's easier said than done, meaning that yes, it is there in our religion. Unfortunately, I have to say it's that if we look into big data is telling us the countries that have the higher level of integrity, a good work and life balance, quite rare for us to find a Muslim country among those. So it means that although our religion have a lot of guidance, but there are a lot of things that we need to work on to improve the situation, especially for younger people like you. InsyaAllah. Saya dah tua.
InsyaAllah, insyaAllah. Thank you so much, Mr. Hazrizal. Move on with the next question. I heard that nowadays there are certain employers who give extra work to their employees that can lead to them working overtime. I think as a student, I also observe similar things happening with our teachers or lecturers and their students. What do you think about this issue?
I mean, this is exactly what I mentioned just now about the importance of finding balance between our life and also our commitment with jobs. I remember a few days ago, I had a project that I need to pitch in front of investors. And before the session, I was reminded by our team, you know, investors will focus on figures, the projection of profit and loss, but you must defend your well-being, meaning that you should never compromise your quality time with your family, meaning that if you need to lose some aspect of the project because you have to spend time with your family, you must fight for that. So I was reminded by our team, our Irish coach and some other colleagues, to take a good care of that, because that is something very important. So to me, back to the question that you asked just now, it cannot work simply based on intuition and individual preference, meaning that by chance, if you have a good employer, the employer will take a good care of that. And if not, then you will suffer. It cannot work like that. It has to be implemented in policies and law. So we need to work on that aspect. I remember, for example, in one story, Abu Darda, rahimahullah, was advised by Salman Al-Farisi, because Abu Darda wanted to pray so hard that it affected his well-being. So Salman came to him and advised him, saying, Abu Darda, on yourself, there are 3 rights that you need to preserve. The first one is the right of God on you. The second one is the family's right on you. And the third one is your own rights on yourself. So you need to take a good care of these 3, meaning that you cannot, in order to please God, you neglect the family rights on you and your own rights on yourself. Or if you want to focus on your own rights, you abandon God's right on you, and etc. So when this advice were reported to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam responded saying, Sadaqa Salman, meaning that Salman was right in his advice. So I believe that if any of us, you know, in workplace, we need to learn to say no when we clearly see that it is beyond the original agreed upon job scope. For example, teachers. I share with you how the practice was in Finland. In Finland, teachers never use their personal mobile phone to communicate with parents. All teachers have their mobile phone provided by the school that they will use to communicate with parents. It means that after working hour, after school hour, the phone will be left in the school and parents can never reach teacher to ask about anything. If parents are not sure, my kid, what was actually the homework? He asked us to prepare something, but we don't understand. We need to ask the teacher. No, you cannot contact the teacher because teachers are human, just like you. They also need their private time, and you should never interfere their personal life after working hour. But that cannot happen just by telling parents to be more empathy and understanding. You need to put it into policies. So that is how teachers are protected in Finland. I think the same thing also can be applied in many other examples in place, meaning that you need to fight for it. We must acknowledge. I remember one last point. One of our coaches said a few weeks ago, he said, if you work so hard and you fall sick, what is the point of getting more money, getting more profit, and you are too sick to enjoy whatever you work on? It is very simple logic that we need to pay good attention to it, inshallah. Hopefully, Malaysia will move into betterment in this aspect.
Inshallah, inshallah. Maybe someday, maybe one day. Uh, um, I think we have to take a break with our session because there is a question from the viewers.
Sure.
And okay, let's wait. Okay, it is from Diana Batrisha binti Dino Mazali. Her question is, do you have any tips to maintain your ibadah and faith, especially when you are far from home?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Diana Batrisha, for your question. Very nice name. um, it is a very interesting for me to reflect on how not just myself, but also our children, my wife, she's working in the hospital. I think one of the survival skills from the religious point of view that we need to bring together with us when we decided to migrate and leave the country is to stop associating our practices in religion with the social agreement or confirmation on it. It means that when we practice something, it is because of our faith between us and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, between us and our God. It is not about the society. And with that kind of paradigm, you will feel close or far from God based on your own faith and practices. It is not about your surrounding. So it means that you pull away the extrinsic factors affecting your religiosity and focusing more on the intrinsic part of it. So you want to eat halal food, you want to pray on time, you want to fast when everyone is celebrating, drinking, eating something, you have a festival or feast at the office. It all goes back to your own sincerity in your own religion. So it is not about confirming, because everyone is looking at you, so you must do certain thing. With that kind of mentality, you cannot survive. So the key word is you must be sincere with your faith, and religion is first before everything else. First, it's about establishing a sincere connection between you and your God. That is, I think, one of the things that we can reflect on, inshallah.
That is a very good answer. I think the answer that question will help, especially for future students that are going to further their study in the overseas and something like that. Okay. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for our webinar session. Mr. Rizal, is there anything you want to say before we end this session?
Yeah. I think first, I would like to say thank you to the organizers for inviting me to share some experience, stories, point of view with the audience. And then the second one, I saw from the session just now that you guys also have a guest from our neighboring country, from Indonesia, the Philippines. So I believe that everything that we mentioned in our session just now, although it is centralized on the theme of Islam, but it is mainly about how when we have faith, and the faith is shaping the way we projecting our personal values reflected in our work. So what we want is let us not becoming someone who lives like a double life. When you go to work, this is yourself, and when you are on your own or with your family, you become someone else. In order to feel peace, in order to get the harmony and balance in life, you must be the same person when you are on your own and when you are socializing with people around you, including at the workplace. And all the things that I mentioned just now, do not overwhelm yourself thinking about all the details. They are all actually very simple, and it's almost everything that I mentioned just now are things that we already know. The only thing is like the what we call it, the Nike shoes says, just do it, and God loves something that we do, even though if it's little, but we do it consistently, inshallah. So I wish everyone all the best with your study, with your work, and hopefully we will have the opportunity to meet again sometimes in the near future. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you again. Thank you very much, Mr. Rizal Abdul Jamil, for your time and thoughts. We would like to say thanks again for the informative and interesting talk. I hope all of you, the audience, have benefited from the talk. I would like to pass back the baton to my fellow MC. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Raouf, and thank you so much, Mr. Hasrizal, for attending and willing to have these sessions with all of us. We hope the information shared by Mr. Hasrizal can encourage students and other viewers out there to have balance in their lives, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Everybody, please give a round of applause to all of our guest speakers for today. As usual, time flies so fast with amazing people. We are extremely grateful with all of the guest speakers throughout our 4 days event this week, and we hope the audience enjoyed all of our sessions and learned something from each of them. Please give another round of applause for all of special guests from day 1 to day 4 who managed to make the International Youth Engagement Talk Series 2022 a success. Lastly, our prestigious international event has come to its end. I feel so honored to be able to host on the last day of this program. I would like to give my appreciations and gratitude to the amazing team that makes this virtual live program run smoothly. On behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to thank our viewers who have stayed with us throughout the entire sessions. Thank you so much for willingly to attending this event, and we apologize for any technical difficulties that occur. Before we end here, we hope to get your opinion on our event. Please remember to fill in the feedback from using the link provided in the chat box. That's all from us. Hope to see you again in our next event. Goodbye and good night.